today. With that, I'll turn it over to Tim.
Are you saying that they are astonishing or they're astonished?
Both, depending on the circumstances.
Well, hopefully after today, they'll be astonished about all of the knowledge they have about working with divorce. How about that? You go with that?
Yep.
All right. Well, very quickly, we are going to be spending a good amount of time today on talking about divorce and what that opportunity represents and how to pursue that. So I'm just letting you know in advance that's what we're going to be doing. If at any point you want to interrupt and ask a question, don't consider it an interruption. Consider it part of what we're doing today. Click on the react button at the bottom of the screen that has the heart on it on mine, hopefully the same on yours. And you'll see the little thing there that says raise your hand. And if you click on that, your hand will come up just like mine did. And you'll be able to raise your hand and we'll call on you. And I would love to hear from you. This call is certainly about you. And if we're not answering your questions or need to answer your questions, that's what we're here for. So please make sure you do that. We'll be looking forward to hearing your questions and all of that. We'll have time at the end. If you have a win to share, if you have a question to ask or anything else, that's fine. But we're going to devote the first part of this to kind of specifically talking about divorce and the things around that and how to pursue that. So we're ready to go. Alyssa, if you would like to fire up the presentation that we did, I'd like to get started with that, please.
You got it. Give me one sec.
I'm going to sing the Jeopardy theme. Do, do, do. There we go. All right. Well, what we're doing is we're calling this and that's kind of the way I think you received the information when we started. It's from the first call to the closing table. It's kind of a step-by-step case study of how to get it done and all of that. It's really a lot of assembled info that we've gathered over the last several months we've been working with this. We've also got a whole bunch of stuff for you to download when we're done that will add to the value that's there. So that's kind of what we're about here. So Alyssa, if you will go to the next slide. So I'm not a slide reader. I'm going to talk to you about kind of what we're trying to do here. I think the main thing to remember about divorce is probably more than anything, while probate, which is what we sort of built around in the beginning, while probate is, horrible and people have suffered a significant loss, it's more of a finite circumstance. And, you'll miss the person who's gone, but people consider that part of life. The challenge with divorce is that a lot of people feel that there's so much failure associated with that, and there's so much of a stigma attached, and how are the rest of their lives going to look? And it's a very, very emotionally charged time in people's life. So as long as you're able to keep that in mind and know that the people that you're going to be dealing with are people who are potentially experiencing the biggest emotional turmoil in their life. And that's the challenge that you deal with, and realizing that if you hit the wrong button in a conversation with someone who's under that level of stress, you're done. And that's really the key to remember, is that you can make an unrecoverable error by not being prepared for what's going on with it. So that's kind of why we're talking about it the way we are. If you get it done, if you get the understanding of this well in hand, it's going to separate you from your competition and allow you to build this as that pillar of your business. So that's what we're going to talk about. Go ahead, Lisa. So it could be a referral coming to you from an attorney in your professional network. It could be an outreach. It could be all sorts of things. In this one, we're sort of looking at it initially as a referral and assuming that it could be that. And we're going to talk in later calls about building that attorney relationship for divorce, just like we've talked about probate. But anyway, the bottom line is that we're looking at this with spouses that are just getting started in the early stages of it. And, you've got to be aware of the challenges that they're facing. And your job is to get them through it smoothly and try to eliminate any potential conflict and bloodshed. Next. So in that first call, the thing that we need to deal with is, and this is a call maybe from the wife. Maybe you did outreach to that and she returned your email, your call, or the referral from the attorney. And the issue there is that, you're trying to make sure that from the very, very beginning, whichever spouse you're talking to is aware that you're not there to take sides. The worst thing that you can do in that kind of circumstance is to be in a situation where, you're trying to get between them. That's not what you're trying to do. You'll make it much easier if you can establish the neutrality aspect of that. Now, it could also be that, you're getting a circumstance where the other spouse has already started to do something and the person you're talking to feels like they're being treated unfairly. So you have to be careful kind of which side of the game that you're going to play. It's far better off if you can be in a neutral position. That way you can potentially deal with both or either spouse, and neither of them are going to particularly reject your help. So be careful with that and kind of deal with it. And like I said, you have to assess the situation, figure out where it kind of got started. And the other side of it is that at some point, whoever you're dealing with has to have the ability to list the house. So if that's the circumstance, you may need to wait for some sort of a documentation from the attorney, or maybe there's a court mandate to get the house sold, all that sort of stuff. But just don't be in a situation where you're offering advice or anything else that you may not have the ability to or the capability of doing properly, and it'll bite you later on in the game. Okay. Go ahead, Lissa. All right. So you're going to have to talk to everybody, and that's kind of the point. You may, assuming that you're trying to work with both of them, going to have to arrange a call, potentially with both parties and or their attorneys, getting everybody on the same page. You need to talk about how future communications are going to work. And with all of this, what you're trying to do is you are there to build your reputation as a rock. You're basically going to be looked at as, what you're doing, you got your act together, it's not your first rodeo, and you're used to working with people that do this. So ask the questions appropriately and make sure that you're doing and saying the things that you need to do. Tell them how you're going to be communicating. If you're going to be sending emails out regularly on a scheduled basis, communicate that and then do it without fail. You want this to be precision. You want it to look like you know everything that you're doing and you're working against the clock trying to get this done as quickly as you can or within the timeline necessary to make that happening. Whoever's going to make the decisions about it in regard to the showings, it's important to nail that down during that conversation. These are the kind of ground rules you need. And then when everything's done and you've achieved an agreement between the parties in this circumstance, document it. Send it back to everybody. Send it to the attorneys, send it to both the husband and wife, and let everybody know exactly what you're doing and what you said you were going to go do. Next. Okay. Now you're down to kind of the challenging parts here. In most cases, neither spouse is going to want to put time or money into getting rid of the property and making it better. So you've kind of got to walk a tightrope here. It's not like a traditional house where you can, simply say, well, if you spend this amount of money, potentially you can get this amount of money back in regard to the things you're adding to curb appeal and all that sort of stuff. So you have to be careful about how to do that. And what we're giving you here, and oh, by the way, I should have said this, we're going to let you download this whole deck, so you don't have to make all kinds of crazy notes in this. We'll give it to you. But the real issue here is that to try and make it so that it's not you that's doing it, you're just giving them information about what goes on in the marketplace. That way you're feeding it to them in a way that is acceptable and it's based on research. It's not coming off as something that's your personal thing that you think they ought to do. Talk about buyers looking for that in the market. Present them, show them a cost benefit of a minimal improvement. In other words, if you potentially cleaned out that garden where everything has kind of died in front of the house and threw in a couple of shrubs, you might add $2,000 or $3,000 to the overall sales price because it'd look better. Real simple. And right now, that's something that'd be a very inexpensive investment, and it's something you ought to consider. Also, just make sure that you use market data and you look at it in regard to comparable houses that may be selling in the same market at the same time. Go ahead, Lisa. Okay. The less that you talk about divorce and use the word divorce in regard to the conversation you're having, the better off you're going to go be. You don't necessarily want to be talking about divorce all the time. Don't talk about motivated sellers, all that. Just talk about the property, not the circumstances. And we said here, block off emotionally significant dates. Kind of the point there is that somebody's got a birthday coming up and you know that it's there. Don't schedule a showing that day. That's not going to be a good day. If there are significant issues in the lives of their children that are coming up, same thing. Be aware of everybody's schedule to get this done. Anytime there is a schedule being shown, make sure that the spouses know that it's being shown and that you stay on top of it, communicate it to both of them. As far as minimal staging, you probably want to take all the family pictures down before the pictures are taken of the property in regard to getting it ready for sale. If there's anything that you think they should approve before you put it out there, make sure you get that approval. But your job is to try to present the home as a neutral and a happy place to be. And the less you talk about what happened there before, and the more you talk about what a beautiful place it is or could be, or all those sorts of things, the better off you can be with that. Go, Lisa. Okay. So let's assume that you had some conversation, you got some things going, you got some showings done. Now you're down to an offer's come in. And one of them wants to take it, the other one doesn't want to take it. Somebody wants to hold out for more money. That's not an unusual occurrence, especially in divorce. It's always a circumstance where one or the other of them feels like they could get more, and they may want to come back and say, well, if you'd put in that garden like we talked about doing, we'd got more money out of this and all that sort of stuff. The issue is you don't want to get that in there. You want to focus just on the numbers. Talk about the fact that you got a hard offer. If you don't think the offer is high enough and you think you can get more, it's your job as an agent. Do your job. Put out the cost analysis that's there, analysis of what's going on. And most importantly, put a net sheet in place so that they understand what each of them will get out of it. Show them the money. If this sells and at closing, here's how much money you're going to come out with. Talk about days on market, all the normal things that you would. Now you're kind of down to a sort of normal transaction. However, if you can't get an agreement, find a way to get the attorneys involved or find a neutral third party that can sit down and try to get this done. I made a note here about don't ever say, I think you're right. If you can get that done where one of the other parties says something and you say, well, I think you're right, you're just throwing gasoline at a fire. The other party isn't going to think they're right and doesn't want to hear it. But just be aware that you're neutral, you're Switzerland, you just want to have a conversation. Next, Lisa. Okay. Closing, important to get this done, get it done right. Now you're down to what's going to happen when it's all over. What do you want them to remember when you're done? And you want to make sure that you do this equally well in regard to all the other wonderful things that you did to get this done. So make sure you keep everybody informed. You do the things that you need to do. Make sure particularly that the title issues get handled. And if you need to do anything to help move things along there and maybe be in touch with the title company, probably be a smart time to do that. If there's anything hanging out, stay on that title company, make sure they're ready to get this done. And make sure that, everything gets done right, that the net sheet data that you showed them gets matched by what actually happens at the closing table. Also make sure that, you've clearly communicated and everybody understands when it's time to clear the house out and not be there anymore. Obviously, it probably is preferable for the parties to sign separately at closing. So it's always better to do that if you can, unless they're very amiable, but you're still running a risk at doing that. I always recommend that you keep them separated at closing. It's not necessary for them both to show up and sign the documents at the same time. When everything's done, send out a very professional recap saying everything that you did, showing what got done. Any other documentation that you can provide, you want to throw it in at that point. Next, Lisa. Okay. Again, now you're to the point of what happens and what did you get out of this? Well, in addition to having made a commission, hopefully what you've done is you've accomplished a number of things. One of them is that you've established a relationship with an attorney that going forward, that's an attorney that's going to refer more business to you because you worked your butt off and showed them how a really professional real estate agent can get this job done and what value you bring to this. So you need to get this done and find a way to work that into a time to sit down with that attorney and talk about future information, future relationships. Also, obviously, you may have through this process determined that you're now finding new houses and new living circumstances for either one or both of the parties. That could be ongoing while this is happening, should be part of your presentation to them about what you can do to help them relocate. One other thing that I didn't mention that just occurred to me, and we should have probably put this in the slides, is that you can also help them find a lender that will not take the existing property into consideration when they're looking at offering a new loan, so that it's not going to be a ding on their credit that they currently own this property. If it's going to be sold, there are multiple lenders now who will not count that against them as debt when they're looking for refinancing because they know it's going to go away. So that's important to remember. Also, we talk about life event nurturing. It's one of the things we're going to be talking about going forward, but we're referring to it now. It's a term we want you to be aware of, this life event nurturing campaign. All going to be part of the email pieces that we're going to be recommending you put out, and we're going to give you some pieces to work with at the end of this. Last thing is you want to take this data, and we say with permission, but if you anonymize everything, it's not going to matter. Make sure that if there are unique things about this particular deal that you accomplished, that you ran into and dealt with, that you put them into this information, into the case study, which should make its way to your website. Talk about the things that you did. That's important to do. Next, Lisa. So here's the key takeaways. Make sure that everybody gets the same information and that you get that information out frequently, often, and anything that comes up, let everybody know. Even if it's small, make sure you document it. Doesn't take any time to write a quick email. Have an email that already contains all of the stakeholders that you simply, repeat the CC. You don't have to type them all. Everybody's in the same email. Make yourself an email list that goes out. When you're done, make sure that you got it done. Even if it was a hassle to get through, you want to make sure that you do the very best job you can to maintain your professional posture all the way through this. Don't get emotional. Whatever happens, show your strength. Show you're the rock. You're the calm in the storm. Try to use the data whenever you can to make your points rather than emotion. As you're talking to them, talk about the market. Talk about others. Don't talk about circumstance and emotion. All the documentation we sort of talked about before, make sure it's very thorough. You got it all nailed down, which is obviously good practice no matter what you're doing, but it's just vital in this circumstance. And then the other side of this is the lean on the right people to make the mediation. Unless you feel that's a particular strength and you have the trust of both parties, mediating it is going to put you in a situation where you may not be able to maintain the proper neutrality. Might be easier to refer that to a third party. And our tendency is, as human beings, is to always say, well, let's all sit down around a cup of coffee and see if we can solve this. You're taking a big risk if you do that because you might not be the right person to do it. And again, it might be that one button that you push that we talked about before. You push the wrong button and you've blown the whole deal. So you try to want to lean on other professionals, legal professionals or mediation services if you run into a brick wall you can't get through. Next, Lisa. We're creating a divorce checklist. We're going to show you some stuff with that coming up. I'm going to show you all of the pieces of this coming up in some slides going forward. Go ahead, Lisa. So at alltheleads.com/divorce540, since this is our 540th episode, we're going to start trying to maybe do some different naming so we can find things. But we've created 4 different documents: the consultation checklist, which is kind of what we talked about, some scripts to talk to them, attorney information, and some follow-up templates for mail. And all that's available for you. Just click on Divorce 540 and you can go grab that. Lisa? Is that it? Lisa, if you're talking, I can't hear you.
Sorry. Did you want me to pull up the document so we can kind of look at them together?
Yeah, just quickly we'll just quickly buzz through them. I'm not going to go through all of them because they're readers, but just kind of show them what we have. Joseph, we'll get to you in just a second. Okay. So this is a checklist, and it will basically give you the ability to walk through all of the steps of the process. And we've given you a lot of information in this, kind of goes into more depth about many of the things that I talked about. Go ahead and scroll down. Got some call scripts as well. Basically how to do it, kind of 3 different approaches to that. Go ahead. Some email templates for the attorneys. Also quarterly will give you some ability to basically working as prospecting, giving you ability to send information out to the attorneys to get that information going. And some guides, and we referred to the guides that we talked about in some of the marketing to the people. So we're actually giving you guides that can be printed and branded for you to be put out to the attorneys as a marketing tool that you can offer to them. You can also, if you want, we can help you co-brand that. So you're co-branding it with the attorney. You can close that up, Lisa, and open the meeting back up. So we're trying to give you a pretty comprehensive start at this. And what I'm trying to do with this today, guys, is to basically kickstart your taking a whack at divorce. We know that this is a key element in business. We think we do a great job of doing this information providing with that. Remember that the one thing that we're real careful to do is we do not put divorce leads out based on decree. We put them out based on filing. That's why we took so long to put divorce out there. We were going to put divorce out back in 2015, 2016. And at that point, there weren't resources. We didn't have the ability to get the information on filing. We could only get it on decree. And after decree, it's kind of gone at that point. The opportunity that you had to show your expertise, pretty much done at that point. All the decisions have been made. Somebody's already moved out. All those things are taken care of. So any divorce leads that we're selling are going to be ones that were done on filing. And so two things to be aware about. One is that the emotion is fresh. It's also important to remember that it's often that a divorce can get filed and it doesn't go to divorce. It never goes to get settled. I don't know the exact statistics. The time that we looked at this before, over 30% of divorces that get filed never go to court, never go get settled, and the parties reconcile. However, the statistics about recidivism on reconciliation from divorce are astronomical. Over 67% of those, last time I saw it, 67% of recidivism go back to court in the first year and eventually get divorced. Because once it kind of goes that way, it sometimes doesn't work out. Those are not necessarily pleasant statistics to deal with, but you got to be aware of it. So just know it's emotion. It's tough. Anyway, so this is what we've provided for you. We hope that this will give you some good info to begin to work forward with. I encourage you to grab the download. We're going to take the slide deck and make it another download on that deck or on that page. So Divorce 540 will also have the slides I just kind of walked through there. And if you have additional questions as we go, please feel free to ask them and we'll talk about them now. If you want to take any more of that, send it to support@alltheleads.com and we'll be happy to do that. And with that, I'm going to open this up, and at the end, I'll talk a little bit about maybe a special opportunity that we'll have for kickstarting your acquisition of some leads to begin working with divorce on. Joseph, what's going on there, buddy? Unmute yourself.
Okay, thanks. Long-time subscriber. I'm just been in and out, and I had a question here. I just got a possible, lead for, the house being sold, but the husband died without a will. And then she wants to sell the house. Now, does that have to go through the probate court to get the proper paperwork to sell a house, or could I just list the house, in her name?
Okay. Tough question to answer because there's probably more questions than just that.
Okay.
It depends on the laws in place in your area. It depends on the circumstances themselves. You say the husband died without a will, but how was the house financed?
Not sure right now, but I know that she's on the deed.
She is on the deed?
Correct.
So she already has title to the property.
Correct.
Well, if she has title to the property, then she could probably do whatever she wants to with it. There's probably nothing unusual about that. The death may not do that. Jimmy, what were you going to say, bud? You're muted. Jimmy, you're muted.
There we go. It depends on how she was entitled. If she was a joint tenant with right of survivorship, you don't need to do anything. If she was just in title with him, then his half of the estate will probably still have to be probated. So
Okay.
you really want to look at how the title was. A smart attorney or somebody who planning smartly will do, in Florida especially, I know it's very common, joint tenants with the right of survivorship. In that case, it doesn't, the title automatically passes to the survivor. You don't have to go through probate. So you want to take a look at that first and just see how it's titled. If you can pull up the title, is it joint? Is she just an additional title person, or was it a joint tenant?
I got to find out because I'm going there on Saturday to just double check it with my broker, because
Okay.
I know I'm coming to the right place. I know I've been in and out, Jim. We talked a while back, but this got dropped in my lap, and I'm like, I want to just give the right information, to take the listing because, I just want to be actually let it be proper. I don't want to have any holes with this.
Is this one of our probate leads that you were working?
No, it's not. This is something
Okay.
that came through another referral for me.
Okay. So you want to see if it's in, well, obviously, I'd find out first how it was titled.
Okay.
Ask her that, and then ask her if she has an attorney yet. if it does need to go through probate, you can have the conversation with the attorney. But you may, I would say you got at least a 50-50 chance that it won't have to go through. That'd be the first thing to do, is to find out.
Well, could I list the house first and then, and then it could actually be done at a later date and time?
You could always list and ask for forgiveness. It just might not be enforceable
Right.
if she doesn't have the clear authority to sell it.
Right. And that's what I'm double checking, like the clear authority first,
Yeah.
so.
I mean, it never hurts to do that. It just may not be able to, because she's at least made an emotional commitment to you and she's signed something. But it
Okay.
just may not be enforceable until you see how the title is.
Joseph,
Cool.
do you have a relationship with an attorney in your market, a family law attorney?
I could just try to find one, if we ask the question for that.
Well, you should have that. That's one of the things that we encourage you to do, is to build that relationship. So you should start doing that anyway. Find one that you can work with. But once you find out if you can get the title information, make sure that if you had that relationship, I'd also suggest you just run it by them, just to be sure that, there's nothing outstanding that you aren't aware of legally that would prevent you from being able to actually have a listing that you could enforce. A listing.
Gotcha.
Okay.
If you're looking for a quick answer, you can always just have a title company say, hey, check this address for me. How was it titled? And they
Right.
give you a real quick answer, easily.
Cool. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Anytime.
No problem, bud. Thank you. Good question. Appreciate it. Okay. The Connors. Unmute yourself. There you go.
How are we doing today?
Good. How about you?
Good. Good. So the question I have is all this that we're talking about in today's case, the divorce, but it could apply to pretty much any of the conversations. You mentioned we're talking to the couple about helping them list the property. Are we obviously doing that just as individuals, meaning we're not realtors? So are we doing that through, it's obviously not going to be MLS unless you're working with a realtor, correct?
Sure. And obviously we did this because the majority of the folks on these calls right now are typically agents, and so they're looking to get that listing. If you're looking at it from the standpoint of your investor, and you've had that conversation, and you're talking to someone that is in a divorce circumstance, what you want to make sure is that you've got the ability to deal with the person who might be selling the house. I mean, that's your key issue there. They've got to have the ability to sell it. If you're talking to the husband and all of the other things that we talked about haven't been done, and there's not been an agreement to sell it, and all the things haven't been done, and there's nothing out there that's in place, you've got to make sure that you're not wasting your time talking to one or the other of them, and the other part doesn't want to sell it or isn't going to do it. So most of it applies. And I think one of the things that we'll do, because it's a good question, I think we'll go back and we'll make some revisions and add oh, by the way, as an investor, here's how this applies to you. And I appreciate you bringing that up.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
But definitely most of this applies without any question. Okay, Moshe, what's up, bud?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Hi, so I'm actually the son of Aline, one of the coaches here.
I sort of
And
figured that out.
yeah, same last name on here. So yeah. So I've been on the Mastermind Zoom calls for a couple months now, but I've just been getting going and started going through the leads for about 2 to 3 weeks now. And it's been going really well. And one of the things I've noticed is that I had two slightly different types of scenarios, and I typically go across or go with it with the same approach, and in terms of what I say over the phone. And I had this one individual who I was being extremely nice with. I wasn't trying to mention too much or too little, and got really frustrated with me and just hung up pretty quickly. And then I had another individual I was speaking to who I went, and spoke to him with the same approach, and he kept telling me, stop beating around the bush, just get to the point, tell me what you're calling about. And he wanted to know all the facts that I had up in front of me, up, on the screen. So I noticed that I've learned a lot in the past 2 or 3 weeks, and especially from those two scenarios, noticing how different they are, and kind of the approach I got to take, and in terms of reading who they are as much as you can in the beginning. And I just wanted to share a little bit of my experience, show face, and thank you all for all the help. It's been really, really great being on, the calls, and then obviously, or the Zoom calls and the mastermind, and then additionally, the leads have been great. So
Well, thanks. That's
thank you
awesome.
all, and yeah. Mhm.
Just based on what you just said, I'll just offer one thing you might want to think about doing. And, oftentimes we try to think, well, what is this person going to want to hear? Are they going to want to hear this approach or that approach or whatever? And, sometimes it works to just ask, to say, hey, I know you're busy and you maybe get a lot of phone calls. I've got some information for you. Do you want to talk about this? Or are you just looking for facts? I mean, find a way to put it out there and let them tell you how they want to eat it. So you may want to find a way to work that into your conversation, and they'll answer your question for you and kind of tell you how to do it.
And Moishi,
Sounds
your
good.
your mindset's already great. The fact that you're willing to pivot and take different approaches depending on the conversation, that's the whole key. That really is. I know our friend Bill Bird down there just redid his letters because he said in California, everybody just says, get to the point. It's too long. You tell me to adjourn. So he redid his letters to be a little more, several different letters, try some that are right to the point and try some that, expand a little bit. But your attitude is great. If you're willing to be flexible and like Tim said, say, okay, what information would you like, and give it to them, give them what they want. You'll do great.
Yeah.
Good
And
attitude.
Awesome.
might
Thank
want to
you
say,
so much.
is there anything that you don't know about what's going on that maybe I can help you with? Are you familiar with what the steps are in the transaction? Are you familiar with what's going on in the marketplace? I have information on all this, but I don't want to just throw it at you if you don't need it. So have all your stuff together and then ask them, what of the treasure trove of information you have in the palm of your hand, all this wonderful stuff. What do you want of all this wonderful stuff I have? That may be a good
Yep.
way to do that.
That sounds good. Thank you so much.
And you
Definitely
made your mother proud today. I can see her smiling. Good enough. Good enough. Thank you so much. Hey, Bill, how you doing, bud? I'm asking you to unmute there.
Doing good. I'm just say I am really touched, Eileen, by your son. I have an older daughter who loves horses, and there's no fallback position for her, and I really wanted to get real estate. So, I just want to say that divorce is to me a really great avenue, because you do have motivated sellers in California. It takes 6 months basically to get divorced. Sure, it's longer sometimes, whatever. But what I find is that they just need a little bit of impetus to get going. And I have found a CMA, a net sheet seems to be the starting point for them all to make whatever decisions they want to make. So since I've started all divorce, I have 7 deals. I've closed 3. I have 4 signed listing agreements, and it looks like I'm getting another one today. And that's in addition to my probate. It is definitely a great avenue, and everything that Tim had said is absolutely true. You cannot use the word divorce. Whatever you can do is to get them to bring up the word divorce, then it's out, and now you can have a very free conversation, right? But they need to tell you, you don't tell them. I'll tell you the story about my first one, and I have one more follow-up thing I want to say. So I'm really passionate about this right now. I really worked hard on this. is one is my first divorce, $1,750,000, sold the house. Somewhat contentious, then not contentious, then contentious somewhat. So what shocked me the most was the husband used me to buy a house, and the wife used me to buy a house. And that was all because I did what Tim had said previously. I stayed Joe neutral, and I made sure I served both sides. The last thing I just want to say is whatever script works for you, these are all great starters, but I kind of do a mishmash. I apologize, my mom's in the hospital right now. Uh, it's kind of a mishmash. I generally call and say, "Hi, my name's Bill Bird," and I do some combination depending on the voice that says, I don't know if this is relevant to you or not, but your home raised its hand and said it might be ready to get sold, might not, and then normally they ask me, how do you know that? And I simply say, I have this geeky guy that has a computer, which is ATL, that sends me this list, and about 20% of the time people are gonna sell, and it's kind of like an event. Someone passes away, something got filed, the age of the home, and then normally they will bring out they're getting divorced. That has been by far my best lead in for divorce, right? And what I have found is once you get the word divorce out of them, then you can offer to really help them. And I just say, I've done, probably 10, 12 divorces, whatever number. And I've noticed that having an estimated value and an accurate estimated closing statement, estimated, really helps you make decisions. Would you mind if I send you one? And they always say yes. So that has been really big success for me. And then the last thing I really want to say is if you don't use Home IQ or HomeBot, you really want to use them, because what happens is the people that are getting divorced, they have to accept your CMA or your HomeBot portal access. And as soon as they request a CMA, you send them your whole listing presentation. Right? You send a full boat to them, put it in a quality leather can, and they're going to call you. It has worked out really, really well. And, I probably have another 10 in the pipeline of people that are talking to me. So I'm really passionate about divorce right now. I still love the probate, don't get me wrong, and I will always do late pays. But I just think divorce is where it's at right now, because I think history shows when the people are struggling, divorces go up. I think it's an unfortunate situation, but we are here to be of service. So yeah, so
That's well put, Bill. I that's interesting. We live in stressful times, and the more stressful the times are, sometimes that's a big kicker on divorce. I don't know. I haven't looked at the stats on divorce filings in the last 10 years, but I suspect they're probably rocking along pretty well right now.
it seems like it, because Marin's gone from 20 to 40 in less than 7 months, or since November.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And just one other thing I'll just say, be aware that, the reality of all of this is that one of the big reasons you want to stay neutral is the first thing that I started with, which is remember that in the beginning, these divorces may not ever become final. People can file and they may not get divorced this time. But if you do this correctly and you don't make enemies out of either of the people, and you've done what you need to go do, you become their realtor. Now you're their realtor. If they do move somewhere else, they do something else, you're their guy or gal. You're their people. And if you're an investor and you've approached them as an investor in regard to this, if they decide they need to sell or somebody else needs to sell, it's just somebody you can nurture. You got to keep nurturing these people, but maintain that neutrality, and that's what's going to help you do that. Jimmy, what were you going to say, bud?
Yeah, I was just going to, Bill, I don't know if you're doing anything like this, but I was just going to say probably a year and a half ago, we had that Lizzie, I think it was from the Society of Divorce Professionals. And one thing really jumped out at me. It's not unlike probate, where you have your affiliates, you have your service providers. But one thing she said she did that really set her apart, she said she didn't represent either divorcing party, she represented the whole family. And she said she would find out if they were school age kids and what school they were in, elementary or middle or high school. And she would always have a list of properties that the people could either rent or buy and keep their kids in the same school district. And she said that even if they didn't have any use for that, they really appreciated that extra step that she was looking out for the kids also. And I just thought that was so smart. That's just one. I don't know if you ever tried anything like that, Bill. It may not even be necessary, but I love that idea, and just have that list there and show them that you're looking at a holistic approach for the whole family. Have you ever tried anything like that, Bill?
Yes, no, I actually do use that. But what I have found is in my area, if you don't have the two income household, you probably are not going to stay in this area. That's just what I have found. Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, there's plenty of communities to the north or the east that they can afford, and I do it all. So, but you just want to be maximum service, be Joe neutral. So the other situation that I've run into recently is where I'm picked by the wife or the husband, and then they have an agent. And that's where I think what Tim brought up was communicating with the attorney, because if I'm sending them a CMA, an estimated closing statement, I ask if I can send it to the attorney too, so that kind of ingratiates me with the attorney without me having to call him up and say, hey, my name's Bill Bird, I'm representing, or I'd like to represent, whatever. It just gives them something with my name on it, so it makes me look better.
Well, it also puts you in a situation where you've established a price point, and if you're communicating everything at the same time to everybody, they're going to have a tough time arguing if you're giving them a CMA and talking about houses that have been sold in their area in the last 30, 60, 90 days. That's hard data for anybody to argue with.
I totally agree, but people in California still think they have the pot of gold.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I agree with everything you just said, and I don't use any comps that are older than 90 days. So
All right, bud.
it is, yeah.
Cool beans. Connors, what's up? Got to unmute, guys. There you go.
It sounds like Bill and several of these are real estate agents, realtors, licensed realtors. Would you say, a benefit that we maybe should consider?
Well, here's the thing. It depends on you and depends on what you want to do with, your career in real estate. If you were a realtor, I would be telling you that this is a great time to be an investor as well. And, vice versa. If you're an investor and you aren't a realtor and you find a property that somebody isn't going to want to sell outright and they want to list, you're going to walk away and not make any money. So it just depends on what you want to go do and how much time you're willing to invest in growing that part of your career. But I always think that you're better off having both of them available. The other side of that, though, is for right now, since you're not, I urge you to go find a realtor that you can partner with today to get started with and grow your business based on that exactly the same way. You can refer things to that realtor, and that's going to bear you in great stead going forward. But I think you got to make that choice for yourselves. I can't tell you. I mean, there are a lot of successful investors who absolutely don't have any interest in being realtors, and vice versa. There are a lot of great realtors who don't want to buy property. They don't want to fool with it. They just want to be, they want to make their commissions and keep rocking. So it's really, that's a personal choice.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yep. Steve, I'll get to you now, and then Paul, I'll come to you right after that. Steve?
So Tim, I've had a coaching call with the Connors, so I will take full responsibility. Perhaps I didn't cover that with them. I know they have another business, and I would say for them to work to become a realtor is something that's probably beyond the scope. Not that they couldn't do it, but with everything else they have going on, much like me, I don't have a license, not a licensed realtor, but I got a good buddy of mine who is. And I will take that as an undertaking for me that perhaps it's a shortcoming in the coaching call we had where they should partner with a realtor that they can use for a house that needs to be listed. Because when you go into a house, if I look at it, it's in great shape. I'll say, hey, you need to list this house. Do you have an agent? If not, I've got a great guy that can help you with that. Having that is just part of the vendor list, if you will. And, maybe you have more than one, depending on where it is. So I offer that to them. Again, I'll take the hit as the coach for maybe not have solidifying that point with them. But I think that's important that they've got somebody in their back pocket to be able to do that because it works for me.
Well, that's well said. And I would stress that for any investor on this call. We talk about, in probate, we started off with it. We called it the wheel of probate. And we had a graphic where we showed the steering wheel from ship, and each of the spokes around there talked about a clean out crew, a handyman, the various and sundry aspects of things that you bring to play in that. If you are an investor, that first cog in your wheel needs to be a realtor. It really should be, because you're just walking away from money otherwise. If you want to go become a realtor, that's great. Certainly encourage you to go do that. But at the very outset, you've got to have a relationship with a real estate agent. And, it's just good business to do that. It's also good business to have it with more than one agent. Find, multiple agents that can refer business to you. Have a network of agents. Have them fighting to have you be the person that they work with. So that's what you want to do there for sure. Hey, Paul, what you got there, buddy? Sorry, go ahead.
Hey, so I'm in Silicon Valley, and would you say that most of the people who go through a divorce will accept us staging a house?
Well, I'm sorry. Are you saying, will they accept you staging their house?
Yeah, we want to make it look as good as possible, because when it comes to homes that are completely done, those are very popular out here because we have, it's a tech capital of the country, right? And so you got both husband and wife usually working at the same time, and they're looking to buy. They don't have time to fix up stuff. And you've got to show them that we've gone in and delivered a house that's basically done, and we stage it. So when people walk in, that really grabs them. And I'm wondering, under a divorce situation, if that's realistic, or how many of those you might see where we actually go ahead and are allowed to stage it.
Well, that's a tough question to answer, and I don't have an answer. I'm going to couch this as an opinion, and then Bill, actually, you weigh in on this first, Bill.
So you're kind of in a very special area because depending on where they work, their stocks or 401k is worth more than their house. So it depends on their vested interest in selling the house, right? So you're in a very rare situation where you're very affluent. So if you can demonstrate to them they're going to sell it faster and get more money, then from what I've experienced there, they're totally in, right? But I think you also need to realize that sometimes getting the top dollar there is not the most important. Getting it sold the fastest and bringing this thing to a conclusion may be a lot more important to them. So you really need to ask the pertinent questions to them and make the thing. But you're definitely in the market that it could go either way. I mean, it's definitely one of the most affluent places in America.
Now, what we do is let's say the house isn't perfect, and they want to set it up so they get the most money out of it as possible without having to pay for anything. So what I've done is I've teamed up with a big company called Revive. They go in and they will, in some situations, give them 2 checks. We'll buy it at whatever the house is worth. We close in our name, so they get the money. Then it's good for paying out for any whatever marital debt they have. it helps the attorneys. They don't have to wait till the house is sold and closing and get paid then, because houses have gone up so quickly here. I mean, the houses have at least doubled in the last 7 years everywhere. So there's a lot of equity there. So they'll have plenty of equity to actually go buy another house and pay the attorneys and all that before it even closes. What we want to do typically, and the buyer doesn't have, the owner doesn't have to pay one dime. We come in, we make that house looks like it belongs on the cover of a magazine. We want all the latest and greatest, because when people walk in and they see that, those are the homes. Those are the homes that are in high demand. Lower end is not, lower and middle end now are starting to lean buyer, but the top end, like once we fix it all up, is where the demand really is. And so we go in and we fix it up, the fancy stuff from there. We have it professionally staged. When people walk in the door.
Are you an investor or are you a realtor?
I'm a realtor.
Well, I think you've got a great niche, and I think you're going to make a lot of money, and I think divorce is the way to go. And again, you have some very affluent people that it's a matter of time. I find when I've done business there, time is a factor for them. They want to close fast. So yeah, so I think you got a great product, and I think you should work it both ways, and it's just a matter of the right question.
Yeah, and I think you need to be aware of, you can constantly talk about, show them some pictures of, what they're up against. Basically show them, here are the other properties for sale in your marketplace of houses like yours, and talk about the staging as it's being done, as you display the images on the comps that you're showing them. That might be a good way for you to talk about staging. Say, these people have done an excellent job of staging. Have you guys thought at all about how you're going to stage the house? That'll lead you into that conversation. I think it's probably a reasonable way to broach that question.
Well, that's one of the reasons why we go the two check approach. We'll buy it now. We'll give you all your equity right now. And then we'll go out and we'll fix it up, and we'll get sizably more than what the house is worth when it doesn't have we get multiple offers. We're selling for a lot more money. So the two check approach, here's if you sold the house right now, here's that much. We're going to fix this place. And then what you do is you get like 10 or 20 offers on these high-end places.
That's great.
If you do all that and it's not staged, it doesn't have quite that effect. So anyway.
Sounds like you've got that wrapped up pretty tight. That sounds like a great approach, bud.
Thank you.
All right. Appreciate the question. So we're past the top of the hour. The one thing that I started off saying is we've talked to we're going to finish this in the next couple of minutes. We're going to be talking with our sales team, but we want you guys to, we want you to take a whack at divorce and get started with this. A lot of you have been putting your toes in the water and, thinking about doing it. It's just another pillar of your business. And so we tried to give you some stuff today to help you get started with this. And we'll certainly be happy to answer your questions anytime on these calls. Call support, do that. Bill Bird is a great coach about this as well. And Bill is certainly more than willing to help and coach you along this. Same with Aline and Steve. They'll all be happy to help you get this done. And we're going to be jamming on divorce in the next 6 months. So we think it's important for you to be aware of what we're doing and how we're doing it. Sales team will have some interesting incentives to offer you. If you contact the sales team, we'll be happy to work with you and get you excited about the opportunity to do this. The information that we provided for you to download, we can customize for you. We can print the guides for you. We can do everything that we can to make you look like that superstar that you aspire to be in that arena. And we're here to help you get this done. So that's what we're trying to do, is kickstart this. So your sales team will be aware of what we're doing, and we're excited about working with you. Bill, you had one more thing you wanted to say. Go ahead, bud.
I just want to say that divorce absolutely flows in to probate, or your probate flows into your divorce. The approach is a little different, but the back end's the same service provider. You are totally set up. If you're doing probate, you definitely should do divorce, and vice versa.
Great.
That is great. Yeah.
I appreciate it. And Aline, I didn't have a chance to call on you. Did you have anything you wanted to toss in?
No, I think I'm pretty good. I just really appreciate what Bill was saying. It really gave a very different perspective to an approach that is very difficult. So I appreciate that, Bill. Thank you.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's a great thing. And, I do appreciate it. And Bill's going through some challenging times in his life today. And, he's working his butt off to maintain his business and take care of his personal responsibilities. And we love you, brother. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. Lisa, before I call on you, one of the things that we've talked about doing is helping you build these relationships and these teams. We're going to do it next week and have a good conversation about that. I think we're going to hold off on that a little bit. I want to look at our team building a bit and make sure that we've got our umbrella spread wide enough that we basically handle everything that we need to do for both the investor and the agent side before we put that out. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to come back and start talking about team building a little bit. But by this time next week, I hope all the people on this call have availed themselves of the opportunity to get started with some divorce leads in your marketplace. Let us help you market, and we'll get this done. And you guys will be stars. Lisa, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody the free divorce toolkit, as well as the slides from today's episode, and a link if you want to go back and watch anything from today's episode. You can find all of those things on alltheleads.com/divorce540. So you can get all of the assets that we offered you today. And then just a note, especially for those of you who are active subscribers, if there's ever anything that you see on anything that we offer through the podcast or blog posts or anything that are deliverables, such as these guides and checklists and things like that, we're working to get more of these into our marketing catalog. But at any time, if there's a piece that you'd like to have branded or co-branded or anything like that, or slight adjustments made to anything, just reach out to your marketing implementation strategist and they can help you go ahead and get that done. And we're here for you.
Yeah, and I think the key to remember, folks, is that we're different. We are a different company. We're not just a leads company, and I think we're trying to make it really clear to you in this call and everything that we're doing going forward that we're trying to build a relationship with you, not just be a vendor of leads. We have everything in the world that we can think of to try and help you be successful. So we're doing all we can to make you be successful. And if there's anything that we can do that we're not doing, let us know. But we look at this as a system and trying to help you build out the pieces of it. Jimmy, I think it's time, buddy.
I think it's past time. Longest call we've had in a long time. I appreciate everybody's patience hanging until the end. I want to thank everybody for coming today. Great call, great participation. Particularly thank Joseph, Patricia, Moishi, Bill, Paul, Steve, and Aline for actively participating. I want to challenge each of you to take one idea that inspired you today, go out and put it into practice, and come back next Thursday and share the results with the group. Have a great week, everybody. Same time next Thursday.